Hello, beautiful people. Today is 20th of August. My name is Sahil, and welcome to the newspaper analysis. But before that, we will take a reference for the GS folder. And now, guys, I had decided that the scope of GS folder we will be extending. And here, now onwards, we'll be taking the concepts for the GS, we'll be taking some of the references from books, teachings from the lives of the philosophers, the thinkers, the data, the reports. The idea is such that you should have a library of some 250 300 small concepts whose application can be so versatile that you can utilize them into most of your answers and can score above average marks. So please do note them and please do keep a track. So in today's GS folder, we will be taking a reference for the GS paper number 3, the state of Indian economy. Now, what was the state of Indian economy before 1991? Our most expected question on this line can come. Even the question after the post liberalization has come, so it is being awaited. Now, guys, before 1991, India witnessed the Asian paradox. What is this Asian paradox? We were the country, we were having such huge demography, cheap labor, mineral resources, everything we were having. But what happened? Into the India, we saw the Hindu growth rate from 1950 to 1980s, late 1980s, where the GDP clocked at 3.5% annually. Not clearly substantial enough to accommodate such a big country. And at the same time, into the same continent, Asia, there was the miracle on Han going on into the South Korea. The country got independent later than us, was into the turmoil till 1953, but still into the next 35 to 40 years, it reached one of the highest GNI per capita income. Huge development was carried, and miracle on the Han was followed by the rise of four little dragons. That is the economic development which was carried into the Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea. At the same time, the Hindu rate of growth is going on in India. The reason is the institutional weakness, and because of that institutional weakness, even till today, we are facing the dire consequences in all of the economic segments. So, guys, on that particular thing, versatile application is there of two concepts, you can utilize it. So that's it, and now let's take the newspaper analysis. Now, guys, first of all, let's take the overview of the entire newspaper first. So here we can see that government has established the National Recruitment Agency. So in that particular respect, we see all the issues. Then, guys, here we can see that cabinet is approving the leasing of airports. So into the topic of the optimum utilization of resources, we'll see certain important attachments. Then, guys, moving forward. Now, guys, here the Indra Rasoi Yojana has been launched into the Rajasthan. Now, guys, by this particular thing, we will see that now how the state sponsored canteens are playing an important role into the food mitigation. So, guys, we'll see this particular issue. Then, guys, moving forward, other regional news not at all important for our exam. That's advertisement not important. Then, guys, we are into the editorial section. This first editorial talk about the China-Russia equations and how India can find a place into this particular domain. Then, guys, this particular article talks about the PM cares, the controversy that is going on. Yesterday, the Supreme Court gave the final judgment, so only those issues have been mentioned here. However, in much detail, already yesterday, this entire issue has been seen. Then, guys, this article talks about the mudslinging going between the BJP and the Congress over an article into the Wall Street Journal. However, just 2-3 days back, if you remember, I had discussed this entire issue. Then, guys, the contempt power of the court has been discussed because of the Prashant Bhushan case. So, however, many of articles we had seen here. Then, guys, this article talks about the privatization via graded autonomy. So we'll see what this entire issue is all about. Then this article talks about the issue of Ayodhya Bhumi Pujan and Babri Masjid. Then, guys, this article talks about the UAE Israel changing landscape into the West Asia. So we'll see that how Palestinian question is now becoming more and more invisible day by day. Then, guys, moving forward, here you can see that all regional news has been talked about. Then, guys, moving forward, so here we can see that the intra-court appeal has been mentioned. So with respect to Article 145, we'll see the issues which are involved. Then, guys, here you can see that India will offer vaccine to Bangladesh on priority. So in a bid to improve our neighborhood relation, it is being done. So, guys, just this one-liner concept you need to keep in mind. Then guys, moving forward, showcase page not important for our exam. Then onto the world page also, the US elections etc. has been mentioned, not at all important. Then guys, bank's recast plan or given by RBI has been mentioned here. Then guys, moving forward, here onto the sports page, nothing important has been given. So that's it. And now let's take the newspaper analysis in detail. Now, taking up the first news. So here you can see that government has decided to set up the National Recruitment Agency. Now guys, what is this all about? I will be coming, but before that we will take some background. See, in our country, state is the biggest employer, and the employment by the state is not only having one economic dimension, it also has one social dimension. By such employment, it keeps the economic machinery oiled up, also provides the livelihood to lakhs and lakhs of people. So certain reforms in such a thing was required from so long. Now guys, if I tell you about the recruiting, then below the grade 2 and grade 3 level jobs, the group B and group C level jobs, there are nearly 20 central government agencies which are carrying the recruitment. And out of these 20, 3 are the major recruiting agencies. They are the Railway Recruitment Board, SSC, and IBPS. Every year, 2.5 crore to 3 crore people apply for job which are taken by these agencies, and every year nearly 1.25 lakh jobs are provided only by the 3 agencies. But all of them, they have separate fees, they have separate schedule, they have separate examination procedure, and it is creating a kind of a complication, it is creating a kind of a chaos. So now what the government had said, that we will establish only one organization, that is the National Recruitment Agency, and it will be carrying the unified examinations for all the central level jobs which are below the group B level. Are you getting it or not? So right now it has been decided as of today that first of all, these 3 agencies will be brought under the NRA, and into the course of time all the 20 organizations will be brought into the course of NRA. So what will be happening? There will be a common eligibility test. This particular test will be carried into the online medium and will be carried twice in a year into the 12 languages, so that everybody from different languages can attend it. Then guys, a score will be given on to the performance of this particular test. This particular score will be valid for 3 years, and then on that basis of that particular score you can get a job. Now guys, see, into these organizations also there are the different level of exams onto the different level of your educational qualification. For example, if you want to apply for the bank, if you want to go for clerk, your qualification, minimum qualification needs to be 12th. If you want to go for the PO, you need to be graduate. So this particular NRA will be conducting the test at 3 levels: for the graduate level, for the 12th pass level, as well as for the 10th pass level. And people, they will be given the multiple attempts, and in whichever attempt their score is the best, that will be their applicable score. Are you getting it or not? So what government is doing? Government is trying to streamline the recruitment process, because good governance also has one more dimension, that is ease of living. And ease of living also includes the ease of livelihood. And guys, as livelihood happens to be a fundamental right of the citizens also, so we can see that by just even by this particular small step, even a qualitative enhancement into the lives of the people will be coming. So I hope you have understood this thing. Please keep in mind that right now these 3 are being included, and in the mean course of time others will also be taken into this particular thing. So that's all about this particular issue, and now we'll move to the next news. Now, taking up the next news, this particular issue pertains with respect to an approval of a leasing approval which has been given by the cabinet. Now guys, what is the utility? First of all, in GS paper number 3, you have a topic that is the mobilization of resources. See, in any country, resources are limited, but the demands and the needs are unlimited. How to fulfill them? Only if you allocate the resource to its optimum capacity. Now guys, what has happened in this particular news? Government had said that three of the airports, that is the Jaipur airport, Guwahati airport and Thiruvananthapuram airport, will be given on a 50-year lease to the private sector. Then whatever money will be raised from here, that money will be utilized for developing the airport infrastructure into the smaller cities. Now guys, if we talk about the National Civil Aviation Policy of 2016, it aims that the aviation infrastructure needs to be strengthened because we have one of the lowest infrastructure base, and as times are changing, aviation industry is bound to grow. There is huge need for both the greenfield as well as brownfield aviation infrastructural projects, but money is not there. So what we are doing, by giving on lease the existing resources, we are bringing the money, and that money will be utilized to build both greenfield, means to upgrade the existing airport, as well as brownfield, that is to greenfield, that is to make the new airport, and brownfield, that is to upgrade the existing one. Is it clear or not? Now guys, see, already Government of India had started the regional connectivity scheme UDAN, that is Ude Desh Ke Aam Nagrik, and here tier 2 and tier 3 cities are being connected through the air connectivity. But how that particular thing will be there if the basic infrastructure will not be there? And in that particular direction, nearly 1100 crore rupees will be raised and it will be utilized here. Now guys, just one extra point. Under the UDAN scheme, the principal objective is to connect the underserved and the unserved and the underserved. What are these underserved airports? These are the one which are having the less than one maximum of one flight in a day. Unserved is those where no flight connectivity is there. So their infrastructure upgradation is needed to be made. Guys, just into the 2019, UDAN 4.0 has started. Is it clear? What these UDAN 1, 2, 3, 4, they are nothing but we are expanding the scope. We started with the limited number of cities and limited number of carriers. Now we are expanding. So we are into the UDAN 4. It will be helping in that thing. So that's it. Now we'll take the next. Now guys, this particular news is an advertisement, and many a times through the advertisements also we can prepare our GS concepts. Now into this particular advertisement, it has been said that Rajasthan government is starting the Indira Rasoi Yojana. What is this Indira Rasoi Yojana? It is a subsidized state sponsored canteen, and particularly after this particular crisis, there have been large reliance of the people onto these canteens to get their food requirements. Now guys, if I give you the reference of certain of the canteens which are going on, then in Tamil Nadu there is Amma Unavagam or the Amma canteens. In Karnataka there are the Indira canteens. Then into the Madhya Pradesh there are the Deen Dayal canteens. In the Andhra Pradesh there NTR Anna canteens, and into the same way the canteen in now Rajasthan. Question comes that how these canteens will be helping to mitigate the food insecurity or hunger in India. Now, till now, the questions on to the PDS, the questions on to the subsidized food grains have been asked, but this is something on which the question has not been asked. Now, guys, to make my point, I will quote certain data. According to the National Family Health Survey 4, it has been said that in India, people have a kind of very bad body mass index. And according to the National Family Health Survey 4, in Madhya Pradesh particularly, if we take the example, then men are having the 28.4% men are having a worse BMI, and 28.3% women are having a worse BMI. That is not specific to their age, to their height. Is it clear? Then we talk after that, one more reference I can give you, that is the State of Food Insecurity in World report. This particular report is released by the FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, and it says that food insecurity in India is to the tune of 15%. There are 194.6 million people who are malnourished. So this is the gravity of hunger in India, food insecurity in India. Now, how these canteens will be helping? First of all, as they will provide affordable food. And we know that according to the Tendulkar committee report, which takes the poverty line to be very liberal, still nearly 22% people in India are below poverty line. They can't afford the food. So the food insecurity of these people will be taken care by these canteens. After that, guys, it is not only about to have a diet, but you need to have a balanced plate. What is the concept of this balanced plate? It means that into your diet all the macronutrients and micronutrients needs to be there, so that the problem of a hidden hunger doesn't comes. Now, according to the concept of hidden hunger, many a times the people are eating enough, but still they are having the deficiency of nutrients. Why? Because the diet is not diverse. And when the cooked food will be provided by these canteens, the balanced plate will be available to the people. Okay, guys, now see, even government is giving a lot of subsidies that you take and you make your own food under the National Food Security Act. Uncooked food grains are being given, but there are large number of problems. People still are facing hidden hunger. That thing will be rectified here. After that, guys, migrants on the groove. Migrants on the groove, there are people, there are the rickshaw pullers who simply don't have the house to live. Even if you bring the one nation one ration card scheme, provide them the ration cards, they still can't make the food. Why? Because they don't have the permanent settlements where they will eat the food. So for them also this will be a boon. Then, guys, employment. These canteens will generate enough of employment, and particularly for the females. If I give you the data of the periodic labor force survey 2017-18 data, in India, just 23.3% is the female labor force participation rate, which is very, very bad. And according to the IMF chief Christine Lagarde, if equivalent to the women also work in India, then our economy our GDP can rise by nearly 2x. Are you getting it or not? So in all these directions, the subsidized food canteens can help. So a probable question in GS2 hunger or GS3 food management, a question can be asked. So please keep all these things into your mind. So that's it. Now we'll go to the next. Now we are into the editorial section. And the first editorial that you can see is with respect to the China and Russia ties, which are now enhancing. So in that particular direction, with respect to the foreign policy, we will see some very good points. Now, guys, from 1950 onwards, the US, Russia and China, they have played a very important role into the world politics. If we talk about the India is not into this particular triangle, but India's relation with this triangle have been very important part in our foreign policy. So we need to see this particular equation where it is going on. And onto the broad perspective, always GS paper number 2 IR question have been asked. So there, this particular unraveling becomes very important. Now starting up. So guys, see, if we see the closeness which is coming presently into the Russia and China, it is because of three strategic pillars which are common to them. Number one is the peaceful boundary. Both of them share a boundary. They want to maintain the harmony there. Then trade. You know that Russia and China, they have a very big appetite. China has an appetite for the energy and Russia have an appetite for the high-tech capital goods, and each other's appetite can be satiated by both of them. After that, both of them have a particular anti-US sentiment. So because of these three pillars, both the countries are bound in a kind of a knot. And now into the present times, their relation has even further prospering. Why? Because of certain particular reasons. First of all, these are for the Russia. Now Russia is seeing a spree of sanctions. And because of this sanction, Russia needs a partner which can stand against this adversity. And now, who is this partner? China, because China is also seeing the same kind of sanctions. You know the case of Huawei. Are you getting? So both are they are wounded by the sanction diplomacy, and therefore they both go hand in glove. After that, Right now, into the past few months, the oil prices have been slashed. And as Russia is hugely dependent onto the revenue which is coming from the oil export, now those particular doors are not that much lucrative, so it needs a kind of another market, another partner for economy. Then Nordic issue. Now, what is this Nordic issue? See, Nord Stream or Nord project, these are the two pipelines, Nord 1 and Nord 2. They are being established from Russia to the Germany. So what will happen? The pipeline will go to Germany, and from Germany it will bifurcate and will provide the oil and natural gas to the other parts. But onto the Nordic project also the sanctions are being slapped. It is also being opposed by both Europe as well as USA, and obviously now Russia don't have a choice, but it needs another partner. And what is this another partner? This another partner is the China. So guys, into the article it has been said that Europe and USA wants that the Russia and China should be contained, but their own actions are bringing both the countries together. And this particular thing we can see by the facts. Into the last few years, the trade between the Russia and China has been doubled. Particularly into the Russia, Chinese currency. Earlier, the Chinese reserves, Chinese currency into the foreign reserves of Russia, they were only 1%. Now they are 13%. So you can see that what importance Russia is now giving to the China. Then guys, China has now completely replaced Germany. Earlier, Russia was importing the capital goods, industrial parts from Germany. Now they are coming from the China. So we can see the convergence which is coming. But article says that relation is prospering, it is becoming very warm, but it is a kind of an oversimplification. There is the reservations also into the Russia's mind. What reservations are there? First of all, Chinese revanchism. What is Chinese revanchism? Revenge comes from the word revenge. So if you know, before the World War One, there was a large number of confrontations which went between the Russia and the China. Some parts of the territories Russia took from the China. Is it clear or not? Still they are into the Russia, and still they are into the Russia, and China wants to seek revenge someday for that particular thing, and Russia knows this particular thing, and therefore it is apprehensive. Then the trade has increased, but trajectory is into the favor of China. How? See this thing. What is the nature of the trade? China is supplying the high-tech transfers, high-tech goods. Russia is supplying the raw material and the oil. Actually, what is happening? The same raw material which Russia is sending, China is making them into the finished good and sending again back to the Russia. The oil which is coming from the Russia, it is using it into its own growth. Is it clear? And at the same time, both are having their absurd dreams. Absurd flight of imagination is also going on. What happens? See, Russia is thinking that they are making China dependent on their oil. So they are taking the energy security of China. China's philosophy is this, that we are using the resources of Russia, and by using this resource, we will make our economy strong, and then we will give a response to everybody. But both are mistaken here. And now guys, if I talk about a particular deal which happened between the Russia and China just a couple of years back, there was a $400 billion energy deal where a pipeline from Russia to China was installed. So this particular project is called as the Power of Serbia project, and this Power of Serbia project is very crucial to China. And because of this particular thing, only the China is relying on to the Russia. So basically the friendship is being deepened, but China is kindly, in a way, using Russia. And now article says that Russia has realized this particular thing, that Russia will always be a junior partner into this particular relation. So relation started, it thrived, and now a realization has come, and because of this particular realization, Russia and India can come together, because India will always treat Russia with the equality, and now a new alliance between them can be made. Are you getting it or not? See, right now there are different opinions which are coming. One school of people say that India should distance from Russia because now the Russia is not that Russia which it used to be earlier. Now it has the new friends like Pakistan, China, and obviously if a kind of a choice comes, then Russia will not be that very much vocal. But this particular article says the opposite. It says that still there is a chance that we can make up with the Russia and we can put our diplomatic hand on this particular thing. So this is all which has been said, and these points provide that where India's scope lies. So that's it, and now we'll move to next. Now guys, this particular article talks about the problems of autonomy into the higher education institutions. So if you remember, just a few days back, the new education policy 2020 was released. This particular policy has even been given approval by the cabinet. Now guys, we had specifically made a video on this particular thing already. This particular policy talked about the school education and the reform into the higher education institutions, and into the HEIs a very good reform came it, that was the phasing out of the affiliation system. You might be knowing that the colleges, they need to take an affiliation from the university. Now that particular system will go. Then there was also the proposal for giving more autonomy in terms of their financial management, their academic management, as well as with their respect to their administration. Everybody said that this particular thing is good, and not now it is being said, rather it has been said since long that often the politicians, the bureaucrats, they interfere into the college education, which leaves its which makes it something not that much desirable. Then it has also been said that these affiliated colleges, they create a lot of burden onto the universities. They need to decide their exam, their schedule, all this kind of thing, and it actually is a drag onto the development of the university. So the system which came will be good. Moreover, as early as 1964, into the Mahajani committee, it was said that government should select few colleges and should give them the autonomous status. So from very long we are talking about the autonomy. But it has been said that such a autonomy is having certain ramifications, certain problems. What are the problems that we will be seeing here? And this is something new because at all the places we see that more autonomy should be given, but it is against that particular thing. So it has been said that since the independence, government has proved their inability to invest into the higher educational institutions. And what has happened? The demand as well as supply are often at the mismatch. If you ever intended to take admission after your 12th standard into an engineering college, you know that there are simply no government institutions. For medical, there are no institutions. So the demand is here, supply is here. Government was not fulfilling. What happened? The private sector came in between to meet this demand and supply. They started their colleges, their universities, they started the open distance learning, and a kind of a decline into the educational standards also came. The higher education was equated with just the profit maximization. Now guys, earlier the state didn't give the fund, and now what happened? State also came with a new formula that we now even promote only the premier institutions. So when you are talking about the autonomy, what you are do, you will select some 15, 20, 100 colleges, will provide them more funding, and the other mass institutions which are not premier, you will not be giving them any attention, and you are forgetting the fact that actually these are the institutions which are educating the chunk of our population. The masses are being educated by them. So whenever we bring the autonomy for some institutions, it comes at the cost of the neglection of the other institutions. So it has been said that a binary has been established into our country: premier, non-premier, and this fascination has also been advocated by the National Knowledge Commission of 2005. It said that the undergraduation colleges, they create a constraint onto the universities. So this affiliated status should be changed. The college universities, they should be separate. It has been said by the NKC that what happens when one university needs to manage hundreds of college, every college needs to go at a same speed. So even the innovative good colleges need to go by the speed of the slow institutions, which is something bad. So they said that equality is bad and more autonomy should be given. But guys, it has been said into the article that into the name of graded at autonomy, what has been done? The preference only to the premier institution is given. And even in 2018, the UGC has registered such kind of thing. What happened? It said that if any college is under the is among top 500 into the world ranking status, or if they are scoring above 3.26 onto the NAAC, they can apply for more autonomy, they can apply for more financing. So what you are doing, you are just promoting the premier institutions. So into the NAP, they had said that the mix of centralizing tendencies and autonomy related tendencies has came. For example, the new education policy had talked about the Higher Education Commission of India, which will be a super regulator over all kind of institutions. That is okay, you are talking about the centralization, you are also talking about autonomy. To some extent it is good, but such kind of a blanket autonomy is not good. What it will do, it will lead to more harm. The people from the lower socio-economic groups which are dependent on to the other institutions which are non-premier, they will be having a kind of a problem. So all this thing has been said by this particular article when alternative dimensions has been provided. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, this particular article talks about the issue that is going in UAE Israel. So guys, with respect to the UAE Israel, just 2-3 days back, I had taken this entire issue where a deal occurred, and now onto the same lines we will be extending. So what happened? We had already seen that the UAE Israel came into the deal where UAE is now officially recognizing the Israel. UAE will be starting the diplomatic relation with the Israel. Why? Because in turn Israel has promised that we will not carry the plan to acquire the West Bank. Now guys, West Bank is a region where the Palestinians are living. So Palestinians, you might be knowing that they want a separate state, but they have not been given a separate state. They are living into this West Bank region. Now guys, this particular acquisition of West Bank, first of all, if I give you some extra point, it was a plan of a bigger plan. That was the Mid-East Peace Plan, which was prepared by the Donald Trump and his son-in-law. So they made a plan that into the Israel, a lot of problem is coming, that the fighting between the Palestinians and Israelis, it always goes on. So what they said that Israel, you do one thing, you acquire the West Bank. So now this is the new map. Here you can see that the area of West Bank is considerably reduced. They say that as the Palestinians are living here, we will accommodate a separate land them here. You can see this yellow one. So that land will be given. We will recognize the Palestine. However, large number of other things were also there. Palestinians, they can have a state, but they can't keep their own military. They will be actually virtually dependent onto the Israel. So this kind of Mid-East Peace Plan came. One part of the Mid-East Peace Plan was to acquire the West Bank by the Israel. Now, because of this particular thing, there was a huge backlash into the Palestine. Countries such as Turkey, they were very against this particular thing. Now guys, UAE actually is not having the diplomatic relation. It said that we will make a diplomatic relation with you, Israel, if you will abandon this particular Mid-East Peace Plan, the acquisition of West Bank. They said, okay, we will not do this particular thing. And the diplomatic relation has been started. So now, two questions are being asked. Question number one, is it something really new which has happened here? And the question number two, who actually will benefit from this particular deal? For us, this topic is important in order to understand the situation that is going on into the West Asia. So what has happened here? In this particular direction, certain arguments have been made. Now guys, it has said that no, it is not actually a new deal. Rather, it is making explicit which was earlier implicit. What does it mean? From very start, already Israel is providing much of the technological and defense equipment to UAE. So just to show the world they are making a deal, but actually they were always together. Moreover, guys, it has been said that not only the UAE is in favor of Israel, rather the entire Arab world is coming into the favor of Israel. Now, guys, if you remember, I talked about the Palestinian issue here. So from very start 1948 onwards, the Arabian countries, they favored the Palestine, whereas the West world, they favored the Israel. So Palestinians, they have not been recognized, but their hope or their support was the Arabs. And now one by one they are falling. We had seen the UAE has fallen, and now we'll see that how others are also falling. It has been said that, see, the Arabian representation is very much there into the GCC, that is the Gulf Cooperation Council. Now it has been said that Israel not only has influenced the UAE, it has influenced the entire GCC. For example, what happened in 2019, Israel visited the Oman. And when it visited the Oman, the very next day, the foreign minister of Oman, it appealed to all the GCC countries that they should recognize the Israel. And if they will recognize Israel, it means that the Palestine will get de-recognized. After that, it has been said that the after that particular thing, the Oman and Bahrain have now welcomed this new deal which has taken place between the UAE and Israel. So they are also in favor. Moreover, even it has been said that the Saudi Arabia is also going into the favor of Israel, because when the Mid East plan was being launched, even before that, Saudi Arabia said that Israel's Mid East plan is good and Palestinians should also accept this particular thing. So what we can see here, that now Israel has become such a strategic protector of all the countries that now the Palestinian question is getting invisible. Nobody is paying attention to that particular thing. Now, guys, there is one reason that why everybody is supporting Israel. You know that Israel is a regional powerhouse, and all these countries into the Arab, there is a Shia-Sunni conflict which is going on. And because of this Shia-Sunni conflict, everybody, nearly everybody, they are against the Iran. And as Iran is also having the bad relation with the Israel, so what is happening? The enemy's enemy is your friend. So everybody is behind the Israel. So Israel can support them against the Iran also. But in that all particular thing, the Palestinian question is losing the relevance as the times are coming. By the way, guys, you will find I will into the timestamp, and I will provide a link where this entire deal I have already discussed. If you missed, just 2-3 days back it occurred. So you can refer to that particular thing also. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, next article. This article pertains to the issues with respect to the judiciary. Now, guys, what has happened? Just yesterday or 2 days back, we discussed the issue of the contempt of court, where the Supreme Court had finally charged Prashant Bhushan, that Prashant Bhushan, by his tweets, he had carried the scandalization of the court, and therefore the proceedings against the Prashant Bhushan will be carried. So when the contempt of court has been levied, so ex-judge Justice Kuren, he calls that there needs to be application of the intra-court appeal. Now, what is this intra-court appeal? That particular concept we will see here. Now, guys, what happens? If you believe that the justice has not been there, then there is the provision of an intra-court appeal. Particularly when we talk about the contempt, then you know that there is 1971 Contempt of Court Act, and in Contempt of Court Act also there is the provision of intra-court appeal. It is there. However, it is in some different way. How? First of all, the contempt power is with both the High Court as well as Supreme Court. The High Court can punish a person for the contempt under Article number 215. It has been given power, whereas Supreme Court has been given power under the Article number 129. Both can punish. If a person is charged of contempt by the High Court, if he is charged by one judge, he can appeal to the two-judge bench. And if he has been charged by the two judge into the High Court, he can appeal to the Supreme Court. But what if a person is charged of contempt by the Supreme Court itself? The same thing happened. Into the Prashant Bhushan's charging of the contempt, what Supreme Court did, Supreme Court by suo motu gave the judgment, and now there is no remedy for that judgment. So it has been said, but why intra-court appeal procedure is not being followed into the contempt case charges? It has been clearly provided into the article number 145 subclause 3 that if any question of substantial law is being discussed, then if the satisfaction is not there, there needs to be a constitution bench of 5 judges which should take the matter again. But into the Prashant Bhushan's contempt case, the 3-judge bench gave their final ruling and now it is completely final. So why 5-judge bench was not used, and why the avenue for the intra-court appeal is not being given? So this particular issue has been raised. Moreover, as it has been discussed by 3-judge bench, one reference has been given that High Court Judge C.S. Kannan, when he was to be heard for the contempt, there was the 7-judge bench. Why only 3-judge bench now? So guys, these are certain of the points which have been raised into the aftermath of the contempt. So please keep in mind the intra-court appeal concept. So that's it. And now we'll move to next. Now, the next news, you can use it as a reference into the answers with respect to the social justice, vulnerable section of our society. So in that particular concept, guys, it has been said that as a lockdown was installed, because of the lockdown, there are large number of women who were not able to access the medical facilities. And one of the crucial medical facility was to get the services for the abortion. And because of the lockdown, it has been said that 9.2 lakh women were not able to access the abortion facilities. Such data, by the way, has been given by the Mary Stopes International report. You can quote this particular thing. And because they were not able to carry the abortion, now they need to, many of them, they need to go for the unsafe abortions. And because of such unsafe abortions, it has been said that into the coming times, there could be 2600 maternal deaths. And you know that already we are so bad onto the MMR rate, and under the Sustainable Developmental Goal 2030, we have taken the target that MMR also needs to be reduced, but this particular thing will lead to a new set of challenges. Moreover, into the lockdown, as regard for the women health was not taken care of and enough of provisions were not made up of, it is also leading to the abuse of reproductive rights to the women. And these reproductive rights could be well part of article number 21, which talks about the fundamental right to life. Is it clear or not? So a question with respect to the women rights come, then as a reference or as an example, we can put this particular dimension. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now guys, this particular news is with respect to the Indian economy, where the Reserve Bank of India just few days back announced a recast package. Now what is this recast package? See, due to the lockdown, there were large number of corporates, MSMEs, which had went into a cash crunch type of situation. And because of this cash crunch, now they will not be able to pay back their loan. Okay, and because they were not able to pay back their loan, there will be huge NPAs. Are you getting it or not? So what happened? Reserve Bank of India had allowed the banks that loans worth rupees 8.4 lakh crore, they can recast them. Are you getting? And these 8.4 lakh crore of loan, they are approximately 7.7% of the overall credit. Earlier, there were the reports that 60% of these 8.4 lakh crore rupees loan, they can go into the NPA. Now guys, see, NPA particularly is not bad. Is it clear? When just NPA is a categorization when you are not able to pay back when you are not able to make timely payments. However, the moment an account turned NPA, the bank need to keep a reserve aside. Because if it has turned NPA, it will also turn into a bad account or a bad loan. And the bad loan is a loss. So for that particular thing, beforehand, the reserve needs to be kept. And if so much of the loans would have gone into the NPA, so much of money has to be kept aside. And then that money cannot be given for other loan. So therefore, the profitability of bank, which is already low, would have suffered even more. And by recasting a plan of RBI, now this problem will be solved. Okay, guys. So just few days back, when there was a monetary policy review, we had seen this already thing. However, just to revise, this recast package was for both the corporate loan as well as for the small value loan for the non-corporate sector, for the people who have taken the personal loan, home loan, etc. Now, this particular thing is also distinct from the 2008-2009 crisis. At that point of time, the constraint came only into the corporate sector. But now the constraint is coming in both corporate as a non-corporate sector. So this particular thing has been talked here in this particular article. So that's it, guys. So that's all. Now we'll go to the question section. Friends, please pause the video and try to answer the question. Question number 1 is with respect to the Kuno National Park and Sanctuary. Please read the statement and identify the correct code. Question number 2 is with respect to E-Sanjeevani. Please read the statement and identify the correct code. Question number 3 is with respect to Blue Bay Marine Park. Please read the statement and identify the incorrect code. Question number 4 is with respect to Central Zoo Authority. Please read the statement and identify the correct code. And the main question for today. So this question is from GS paper number 2 and it is a 10 marker question. So the question says that in the recent years, various state governments are exploring the idea of subsidized food canteens, how they can be a viable alternative to mitigate food crisis in India. So please write it and try to think some innovative dimensions. So that's it, friends. I hope you're liking our discussion. Thank you so much.